Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Hope you're all having a fantastic Monday whenever you hear this. All right, so Keelan Marion kicked off the bad news of the weekend for BYU, but then Harrison Taggart added fuel to the fire when it was reported that he told On3 Sports that he was leaving for the NCAA transfer portal. Now, losing two starting caliber guys, because that's what Harrison Taggart was last year for BYU. He was their starting middle linebacker. Losing those two guys is never a good thing. But as I mentioned, I refuse to freak out about this because Harrison Taggart is the least played of the trio of linebackers that made BYU's defense so stingy a year ago. Remember, Jack Kelly, Isaiah Glasker were absolutely lights out last year. And I'm not saying that Harrison Taggart wasn't lights out, but if you simply look at the overall play style and how the season progressed for BYU, you would notice that a couple of people actually sent this to me. I'm going to throw this out here. This comes from Blake. It says that BYU plays a tons of 4-2-5 on defense with Glasker and Kelly as the only linebackers on the field. He says Taggart probably wants to go somewhere where he can play starter minutes. He said last year, and I verified this, Taggart played 464 snaps, Glasker had 771, and Kelly had 813. So he's right. The 4-2-5 that Jay Hill seems to favor in a lot of passing downs, and more often than not, it becomes BYU's base defense against spread-type teams. You only have two linebackers on the field. And if you were to ask me, okay, Jake, of BYU's entire roster, what linebackers do you want on the field at all times? It's Isaiah Glasker, and it is Jack Kelly. They are bona fide NFL draft prospects, and they are everything that BYU wants in their linebackers. Able to go sideline to sideline, just as capable in run stopping as they are in pass sets. What Harrison Taggart showed at BYU was he was able to overcome being an undersized linebacker. When he went to Oregon, he was a four-star prospect out of Corner Canyon High School. He went to Oregon and was essentially told at Oregon, you're never going to play here. And I don't know if I'm breaking any news to anybody, but that's what he was told by the Oregon Ducks staff. Well, he decides, okay, if I'm not going to play here, I better find a new place for myself. He enters the transfer portal and he examined a bunch of options and ultimately settled on going to BYU. He had a sibling, I believe it was a sister, who was running track at BYU, and they became a tandem package to go and play for the Cougars. And to Harrison's everlasting credit, he emerged as a very capable linebacker against, I think, what a lot of people thought of him. Even maybe the BYU staff themselves said, hey, we're bringing this kid in. Let's see what he's capable of. He showed that he had elite track speed, because that's one of the key facets he showed in high school, is he was a legit track star, and it translated over to the football field. But he wasn't a 6'3" Adonis out there as a linebacker. That's what Jack Kelly, and more important, that's what Isaiah Glasker are for BYU. They're 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 240 pounds, and can run like a gazelle. That's what BYU wants in their linebackers. And to Harrison's credit, he kind of bucked the entire trend of what Jay Hill and the BYU defense were looking for at linebacker, and was essentially so good they couldn't help but play him out there. Now, as the season progressed a year ago, Siale Esera, who was a more than highly celebrated prospect in his own right coming out of Timpview High School, he emerged as a really, really fine candidate at middle linebacker for BYU. And quite frankly, based on people I talked to when I started reaching out about why Harrison Taggart was leaving, they said during bowl prep, Siale Esera was already sharing reps at middle linebacker with Harrison Taggart. Now, Harrison ended up starting that game against Colorado in the Alamo Dome, had a really, really big sack for BYU on Shedeur Sanders, had a really, really fine game. But that had to be a little bit concerning to him to already watch Siale Esera nipping at his heels as that bowl prep was going on. Then fast forward to this spring. I can tell you, watching with my own eyes and everybody I talked to, Siale Esera was absolutely electric. He had a foot injury, I believe it was a Lisfranc, that he had early on as a freshman for BYU that slowed him down. And anybody who's had a Lisfranc injury, look at Taysom Hill, for example, it can take a year and a half to really get back to full capacity as a football player. And Siale Esera is going into, I think we're like 18 months post-injury, at least at this point. And everything I saw in spring camp screamed that it's Siale Esera, who is an absolute machine at 6'3", 250 pounds. And when I talk about guys who can run, Siale Esera, his size belies how quick he is as a linebacker. He made a major impression in spring ball. And I think, quite frankly, Harrison Taggart looked at it and said, if I'm going to have to share time, maybe I'm better suited to look elsewhere, because The other guy that emerged in spring camp was Ace Kaufusi. All you got to do is listen to essentially any of Jay Hill's interviews during spring camp. He more often than not, I should say, highlighted Ace Kaufusi emerging as well. Ace is now all of 6'4", 230 some odd pounds, and that Kaufusi last name is synonymous with standout football players in BYU football history. It goes back multiple generations. He's got cousins, speaking of both Bronson and Corbin not too long ago, who were absolutely electric for BYU defensively. And Ace Kaufusi is right there in the mix at linebacker. Doesn't even include Miles Hall. There is a glut of talent at linebacker for BYU. And if Harrison Taggart was essentially told as he was going in exit interviews for BYU that, hey, understand that you're competing every day for playing time, and we've got multiple guys who are gunning for your spot, he may have said, you know what, maybe I want to look and find another option for myself. And I can't blame the kid in that circumstance for that. That's why the transfer portal exists. If you feel like you're going to be beat out for your spot, or you feel like your starting job, your NIL money, whatever it is that's causing you to consider this, you feel like it's at risk, yeah, that transfer portal is out there for you to find a better option for yourself. And I wholeheartedly endorse the transfer portal existing to allow these young men to have that opportunity to find the right situation for themselves. I also would have liked to have seen Harrison Taggart step to the plate and say, all right, make them prove they can beat me. But he decided he wanted to transfer. So now you look at it saying, okay, Siale Esera is probably BYU's middle linebacker. Harrison Taggart is probably on his way out. Could both he and Keelan Marion ultimately decide to pull back from the transfer portal? Yes, they could. But to have jumped at this point screams more to me, because the spring portal period right now with this house settlement pending screams to me that they're looking to secure obviously a payday, but more importantly, secure more playing time. And I wish them nothing but the best, because this spring portal period, a lot of people said if you leave during the spring, you're likely not to return, especially considering coaches are starting to do math on how they're going to cut down their rosters. And BYU has another 10 or so guys who have hit the transfer portal. Landon Rico, I can go down the list of guys. Those guys are guys that kind of expected to hit the transfer portal because they were probably told during their exit interviews, hey, understand that the roster cutdowns are coming. And if you would like to find a new home for yourself, it may be in your best interest to hit the portal now and see what you can scrounge up for yourself. It's no fun. It is no fun for the coaches. It's no fun for an administrator. It's especially no fun for these young men whose dreams of potentially playing at BYU, having the role, having the career they hope to have as a BYU Cougar essentially ripped away from them. It's no fun for anybody. But in the case of a Keelan Marion and a Harrison Taggart, who appeared to be starting caliber players, that screams to me that if you leave now, yeah, it's hard to pull back from the brinksmanship that you put BYU, the situation you put BYU in. I just don't see you pulling back from that and saying, hey, just kidding. Can I come back and play for you? It's just, and you guys can jump in the comments and say that I'm up in the night. I'm completely wrong about that, but I'm paid to give you my opinion and my breakdown of this. And that's what all you all are asking for when you come to this podcast. So it's a very interesting dynamic here. And I wish both Harrison and Keelan the best, but at the same time, I think BYU's totally okay in, quite frankly, in filling both of those slots. The reps, the overall impact, maybe special teams for Keelan Marion. Maybe that's the one facet you can't really feel. But at the same time, I say, hey, Keelan was an All-American, but we have Parker Kingston right there who was absolutely electric in punt returns himself with multiple touchdowns in punt returns. Could he not take on kick return responsibilities and show off that electric speed? I sure think so, and we'll see how it all shakes out. So I really do think BYU is able to absorb these two losses. Yes, it's no fun to lose starting caliber guys, but they may have come from the two deepest overall position groups in BYU's entire football program. And now you move forward and look at other options.